brothers and sisters. How's it going? Hope everybody's doing well. I'm ready to get into some more of these dreams with you. I was so encouraged by all the comments. So many confirmation dreams and similar dreams, and it's no wonder that the Lord told us to not forsake assembling together and fellowshipping together and sharing with one another, because he speaks through all of us. And you know, I really believe we all hold like a piece of the puzzle to the big picture. And, you know, as he unites us, we click, 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 click. And as we get closer to him coming in the clouds for us and that trumpet sounding, you know, the puzzle pieces are really starting to show the picture. So it's really cool. I have quite a few dreams that I'm going to share with you today and some scriptures to go along with them. I think the best way to do this, I don't know, I don't know, I've been kind of going back and forth in my mind. The best way to do it, I think I'm just going to share the dreams and then we'll get into some scriptures, okay? So that's kind of what we did last time. So let's just get right into it. Let's start with a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this time together. Thank you for speaking to us. Thank you for confirming things to each one of us. Thank you for just your word that's so active and alive. It's such a honor and a privilege to hear from you and to be in your presence. I thank you so much for all my beautiful brothers and sisters who you use to keep me going, and we're just thankful, Lord. So just let everything today glorify you. Let us diligently seek you in your word. You tell us in your word that you're a rewarder of those who diligently seek you. So may we just always seek you until you call us home, and even when we're there, I pray that you teach us all these things, because we could never fully understand the depths of this word that's constantly being fulfilled in so many ways and constantly coming to life. It's just incredible, Lord. So I just pray that your truth be spoken today, that you be glorified, and that you bless our time together. In your precious Son, Jesus' name, amen. So let's do this. Let's just get started here at the first dream. Okay, we'll start out with this one. And it's cool because I think that verses will start to pop out in your guys' head ahead of time before I even get to read them as we talk about these. But so the first one I want to share is we were on a line taken up to this place. I guess you'd call it kind of like a hotel-ish, just a place that had many rooms. So we were going down this hallway, and by we, I mean everyone that's in Jesus, all of us. I don't remember anybody specific necessarily, but I knew that it was the saints. I knew that it was us. And we're going down this hallway being led by this angel, and there's a ton of rooms on the left, ton of doors. And the angel is showing as you know, we're just walking down, and then the angel would open a door, and one of us would go in, someone would go in, whoa, I'll see you guys soon. And they'd go in and shut the door. And then we're all kind of like, you know, rejoicing and praising and singing, and then another door would open and someone would be like, see you soon, and they'd go into their room and close their door. And, you know, one by one, the angel was letting people into their rooms, and we were all just following in line, waiting to be let into our room. So I was let into my room, and as soon as I was let into my room, I was immediately, the scene changed, and I was taken down to this viewing area in the downstairs, the lower level of wherever we were, and it was a viewing area. So I was taken out of my room, out of my chamber, and I was taken, the best I can describe it was like a zoo, like a huge piece of glass, like you'd see at a zoo, like a display. And I'm just standing there, and all I see is this humongous snowstorm, a snowstorm that is so brutal, and so the wind blowing, the snow snowing so hard, it's literally going east to west. It's not coming down at all. It's just going completely east to west. I mean, no visibility hardly at all. Just the most treacherous snowstorm. Obviously, we know from Isaiah, and I can read it too, but in Isaiah 26, it talks about, you know, hide yourselves, enter your chambers, and close the doors while his indignation passes by. We can read that passage together. But it's really cool that the detail of the wind blowing from east to west, it was very distinct. That really popped out to me. in this dream, because it says that's how Jesus is going to come. He's going to come like lightning flashes, and lightning flashes from east to west. It also says that from the rising of the sun to the setting thereof, so east to west, so shall it be at the coming of the Son of Man. So Jesus is coming like lightning, like the rising of the sun to the setting thereof, east to west. And this wind, this was coming east to west. So I thought that was cool, an indication, that the rapture had happened and we were hiding in our chambers. So I said to the angel, I'm like, this is a really bad storm. Like, this is horrible. Like, who can survive this? And the angel was just kind of made a face. It never talked, just kind of like, yeah, it's bad. So I'm looking really hard and I barely make out a figure, a human figure. I couldn't tell you if the person was old or young, male or female, but they were just like this with their arms, and they were going against the wind with their head down, trying to weather this storm. I could barely make it out what it was. It was just a shadow of a person. I couldn't see buildings. The snow was too thick. The wind was too strong. I could just barely make out this human figure kind of trying to barrel down and going against the wind, trying to weather this storm. And I said to the angel, it's like unsurvivable. Like, like they're not going to make it. And he's like, so that was the first dream that I wanted to share. The other one that I wanted to share, the next one that I wanted to share, this actually happened in real life, but it ties to the dream that came just the day after. So in real life, I'm driving. This is actually on March 22nd, 322. And I later, that is significant, but I was driving from Ohio to Florida on March 22nd. As I'm coming into the city of Atlanta, where all of the exits start off of I-75, traffic is starting to go real slow. I'm riding my brakes, and traffic is held up as we're coming into the city of Atlanta. As my car is slowing down, I look down to the side of the road because it was, nice weather, weather to where the windows could be rolled down. And I looked down, and laying on the side of the road in real life was a perfectly dead bald eagle. It wasn't bloody. It wasn't smashed like it got hit by a car. It wasn't like, rolled over to where I could barely tell what it is. It was a wings spread out, just laying on its back, white head, white chest, yellow beak, black body, perfect bald eagle laying there dead on the side of the road. And at this point, when I had seen this whole drive from Ohio to Florida, this particular drive was really major for me, because at the end of 2019, the Lord was really starting to wake me up as to what was going on. The fall and winter of 2019 into the winter, beginning of 2020, even before the 19, all that came out, the Lord was really waking me up in a lot of ways. So I had already started to unlearn everything I had been taught and really see things for how they were, and what I don't know what I can say without getting this video flagged, but like how secret societies worked, and just how much we had all been lied to, as we all, a great awakening had really happened. So on 3/22, we're kind of into the pandemic at this point, and this dead bald eagle happens. So I get to Florida, and the house I'm staying in, I fell asleep on the couch. And that night I had 2 dreams in one night. And actually, I hadn't even thought of the significance of both of these dreams happening in one night. And mind you, this was the very first dreams I've ever had. The very first dreams from the Lord I've ever had. As a matter of fact, other than like 1 or 2 dreams when I was a child, these 2 dreams that happened in this night were the first ones that I ever had that I could remember. So all it was, the first dream that night was I was being taken through this completely apocalyptic scene. All buildings had been crushed to the ground, complete destruction, complete desolation, tons of piles of rubble, smoking cars. It was black, it was dark, it was hazy. There was smoke and fire everywhere, wailing. It was what you think of, on Rapture Day, the apocalypse. Hazy red sky, barely, super dark, clouds everywhere, car alarms going off. I was, going over just piles and mounds and hills, literally like almost mountains of rubble where these buildings had all just caved in. Dead bodies. I know that's a bit graphic. Just horrible, 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 horrible. So I'm going to the top of this mountain of rubble. And when I get to the top, perfectly untouched, with light shining up on it, and it really stuck out because it wasn't harmed. It was a perfect United States of America flag at the top of this rubble, indicating, that's what had happened. I was in America. The flag was just blowing in the wind, illuminated, by spotlights shining up on it, right on the top of all this rubble. America was in rubble. That night I fell back asleep after this dream. I woke up and it terrified me. I calmed down, I fell back asleep. Then I had another dream. In my dream, I was sleeping on that couch where I was in real life. Where I was sleeping in real life, if I were to sit up, I would be facing a sliding door, like a sliding, like a slider, a sliding glass door. And in the dream, I was woken up by when you slide a glass door, it makes a certain noise. I was woken up by it just in enough time to see a man in a white garment. All I could see was the back of him. Dark hair about to here, white garment. Just enough time to hear that sliding door open. I sat up in the dream, looked at the slider, and the door was shut and the figure was gone. Never got to see the front of it. It was like a thief in the night. Jesus came, the rapture happened like a thief in the night. I hadn't thought about the gravity of both of these two things happening, two dreams in one night. I always thought it was significant there were two dreams in one night, but the fact of what they were about, America in rubble and a thief in the night in the same night. I had never thought about that till Aaron brought it up a couple weeks ago. But it was a thief in the night. He was coming like a thief in the night. So really, we can get into a study on that at a different time and the timing of things and really dive in deep on, the day of the Lord and the thief of the night. And we know that he's not coming to us like a thief because we are children of the light, and that day is not going to overtake us like a thief. We have oil in our lamps. We have oil in our houses. And if a thief comes to your house and the light is on and the oil and the lamp is burning, that thief isn't coming into that house. It's going into the house where there's no light. It's going into the dark house. That's who's getting overtaken like a thief. So we have a lot of comfort in that. We see it approaching. If you're watching this right now, you either already knew that day is approaching, or I pray that from watching this, you know now that day is approaching and you give your life to Jesus. We're not appointed to his wrath, guys, and he's so gracious to give us all these signs and understanding of his word, and the Holy Spirit to show us, the Holy Spirit to say, look what you're reading, look out in the world, it's happening, right? So that destruction, that was almost 3 years ago that I saw America in rubble. And then now here we are with everything that's going on in the world. So we have the winter storm and taken to our chambers, the destruction and the rubble and the desolation with the United States flag, the thief in the night, the dead bald eagle that happened in real life. Another thing I had in 2021, I think in late summer, early fall, I prayed to the Lord, please give me something to study. Give me something to look for. Give me something to focus on, to guide my thoughts, so that I'm focusing on what you want me to focus on. And I woke up that morning and there was just 2 words, plain as day. I could hear them and I could see the words in all caps, bear, B-E-A-R, period, all caps, bear, and then gate, G-A-T-E, period. Bear, gate, bear, gate. That day I go to take my son to the airport, and I drop him off at the airport, my oldest son. I drop him off at the airport to fly back home, and I'm driving back home from the airport, and my youngest son is in his car seat, and I look in the rearview mirror and I see that his head, is like this. you know how their neck, and I'm like, oh, it's like a 40-minute drive. I really have got to adjust his head. So I park in a parking lot. I get out, walk around to his side of the van, shift his head, stuff, you know, a blanket in there so he's secure and his head's upright. And I close his door, the sliding door of the van, and I go to walk around the back of the van to get to my driver's seat. And all of a sudden, as I'm walking around, and I'm pretty new at all this stuff at this point still, and I just hear the Lord, look at Stellarium, look at your Skyview app. And I'm like, I actually said out loud in the parking lot that day, I said, does this thing even work as I'm getting it out in the middle of the day? Like, does this even work? I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know you could forgive me, guys, I'm silly sometimes, but so I'm like, okay, all right. This is the day that the bear in the gate thing happens. So I'm behind my van in the parking lot. I open up the app, I hold it up to the sky, boom, bear. First place I hold it up to, what shows up on my phone is a bear. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, bear gate. I already knew in my spirit, and I just knew from studies that I had done that the bear was representing and trying to tell me something about Russia. That was understood, but the gate thing, I didn't understand. Well, we cut to the spring of 2022, and Russia invades Ukraine. So I start looking into the Russia and Ukraine thing because I'm like, the bear's been let out of the gate. The gate's been open for the bear. Okay, bear and gate. Here goes Russia. What are they doing? Upon studying further, I found out that Ukraine is known as the gate. There's actually a very, very famous painting called the Gate of Kiev. It's one of the most famous pieces of art in, Ukrainian culture, the Gate of Kiev. The gateway to the Middle East. It was just crazy that in like August or September of 2021, bear and gate, after I had asked him, and then he showed me the bear in the sky, and then I had asked them, what is this? And then cut to spring of last year, and here the bear goes, invading the gate. The bear was let out of the gate, into the gate. Just wild, right? I mean, whew. Another dream that I had was, and this was a pretty quick one, I was driving in a car. I was coming into this like big metro city, lots of traffic. I was going really slow, riding the brakes, like barely moving. I was in the left-hand lane. There was a car next to me in the right-hand lane. All of a sudden, this car starts to like veer over and kind of cut me off. And we were going slow, so it didn't hit me. I just saw it kind of coming into my lane, and in the dream, I'm like, said out loud, what's this guy doing? What are you doing, buddy? Like, what's your problem? So I look over at the driver to kind of see, like, what are you doing? You're coming into my lane. And his face is like, his eyes are huge. His mouth, his jaw's dropped. And he's looking to the left. So I turn to look to see to my left, to see what this driver is looking at. I turn to look. And right as I turn to look, in slow motion, I see this missile, okay? This missile coming down at an angle. And as soon as the tip of the missile hit the tip of a blade of grass, just like at that nanosecond right there, I mean, barely hitting, I went like this to kind of shield myself, and boom, I was in white light. As soon as that missile hit, white light, I was just like, and that was it. And that was all that dream was. This is something that happened actually in real life, and it was pretty crazy. And I have some pictures I want to share with you guys that go along with some of this stuff. I'll do a screen recording of them and edit it and put it in here. So I was making dinner for my kids, and I had just put some frozen stuff in the oven. And usually I preheat the oven and then stick it in when it's ready, when the light goes off, and set a timer and, whatever. This time, for some reason, this particular day, it was an odd day. This whole 24 hours was odd. And again, this is in real life, not in a dream. For some reason, I just put the frozen stuff on, throw it in the oven, and then turn the oven on. And I'm like, you know what? I'll just give it a couple extra minutes. It can heat up while it's cooking, whatever. So I start doing the dishes, and after maybe like a minute or two, when the stuff was clearly still frozen, I decided to check the oven. And I even thought, as I was checking the oven, I had the thought to myself, Kristi, why are you even doing this? It's frozen solid. Like, there's probably still ice on it. You don't need to check it. Anyway, I checked it, and there was a flame in the oven. A flame, a fire had started in my oven. And so I blow on it, it gets a little bigger. I shut the door, flip off the oven, and I just start praying, Lord, you got to put out this fire. I don't know what's going on. I'm here by myself with my kids. Just please put out this fire. Please put out this fire. Please put out this fire. So I open up the oven just a little bit to check it, and the flame had gone out. So I just stood there in the kitchen for a minute, and immediately over my spirit, I just thought, war, ignite, fire, bombs. Like, what just happened? Is this significant? Is this from you? Is this a freak accident that I just checked something that was clearly still frozen? Like, just kind of stood there in the kitchen a little bit stunned from everything that had just happened. My heart was pounding from that fire. But I just had on my, okay, fire, ignite, fire ignited, bombs, war. And mind you, because of the missile dream and because of the destruction dreams and because of just everything that's going on, I was, he's been putting it on my spirit a lot because of the Barren Gate thing, because of the thing with Russia. He's really been putting it on my spirit to keep up with these things. And that's what Jesus told us to look for, right? Was the wars and rumors of wars, nation rising against nation and kingdom against kingdom. And so really in the last quite a few months, and we all mature in our watch for the Lord, and we go through seasons, and he kind of guides us what to study and what to look for. But I've certainly been in a season where he's making it very clear, starting with the bear and the gate thing, that Russia and this thing going on is, he's drawing me to it. So anyway, I go upstairs, and I had went up to tell the kids, okay, guys, there was a fire in the oven. Like, what's it going to be? Peanut butter and jelly? Like, we can't use our oven right now, right? It just burnt up. The coil completely burnt up. But instead of going into their rooms to talk to them about dinner, for some reason I went into my bedroom. When you come into my bedroom, I have a desk with my computer sitting on it, immediately to your left. It's an iMac, and it has a wireless keyboard that runs on batteries. In order to turn on this keyboard, you have to touch a button on the top right side, a power button that turns on the keyboard. Well, I hardly ever use it. I usually just use my phone. I don't even really ever use the computer. So it's always unplugged, and the keyboard's always off, and everything's wireless. So the mouse is always off, computer's unplugged, and the keyboard is off. Well, instead of going into the kids' room to tell them about dinner, for some reason I walk into my room. And right as I walk in and I look down at my keyboard, all of a sudden the green light comes on the caps button, right in front of my eyes, green light. And I'm like, whoa, I saw it come on. And I'm like, whoa. So I'm like touching it, and it's not going off. And I'm like, this keyboard isn't even on. So I turn it on. I physically turn the keyboard on through the power button, and then turn the green light off. It just came on when it was off. Green light. So in this one instance, we have green light, ignite, fire, ignite, bombs, war, what just happened? Something just caught on fire, green light. The next morning, I'm waking up a little late. Our mornings are hectic. I'm dishing out breakfast and packing lunches and doing this and that. I never really open my phone in the morning. I certainly don't get on YouTube. I don't have any time for that. We're brushing teeth, brushing hair, getting dressed, doing all this stuff, getting out the door. But for some reason, I felt it was a good idea this particular morning to open up YouTube. And the very first thing I open up is a video about the war in Russia. And the headline, the title on the video, and I will share a picture of it here. I have a screenshot. Is bombs ignite and green light, and it all has to do with Russia. So the two things that happened the night before were on the headline of this video that I just randomly decided to pull up, from what I just randomly the night before decided to check the oven and see the fire, that I randomly decided to come into my room and see the green light It was just wild, okay? Another dream that I had, and we will tie all these together, is I had asked the Lord again for something to study. Guide my thoughts, guide my study. Please keep speaking to me in a dream, in signs, whatever. Just let me know it's you and keep confirming to me I'm seeking you, you know. I went to bed that night and I had a dream of the Bible opened to the book of Daniel, chapter 12, and that was it. I woke up and I knew from that point I needed to study Daniel. I needed to study Daniel 12, and I needed to look up the number 12. Lo and behold, 12 in the Hebrew Strongs means destruction. Daniel 12 is all about the time of the end. And the book of Daniel, after studying it, which Lord willing, if we're still here, I'd love to do some study videos on it together. I'm certainly not a teacher, not a prophet, but I'd love to look through it together and show you some things that the Holy Spirit is really pulling out to me and trying to show me and discuss it with you guys. So we have the bombs, we have the bear in the gate, we have the destruction of Babylon, we have the missile hitting and the white light, we have the taken into our chambers, the green light. Okay, so then this is the last thing, and I have a screenshot for this too. Oh, one quick thing. The number 12, that destruction, for some reason, out of all the places in the Old Testament that destruction and stuff is mentioned, this particular destruction, this 12, is only mentioned twice in the book of Esther when she's pleading for her people, against the destruction of her people. So there's something significant about Esther, and that 12, just really cool. But just kind of to tie it all in, then we'll get into some quick scriptures here. United States, pile of rubble. Thief in the night, same time. Missile hitting, bright light. Enter our chambers. There's a huge storm outside. We're protected from that storm. Barren Gate, Russia. Fire igniting, green light. Daniel 12, time of the end. 12, discussion. Daniel 12, or Daniel. We'll study that later. I can't even get into it. This video will be way too long. The last thing that I want to share with you real quick before we get into the scriptures is a few weeks ago, not that long ago, maybe even last week, all of a sudden, we were supposed to have like a snowstorm. It wasn't supposed to be anything huge. Just we're supposed to get some snow. That morning, I get a message at like 9 o'clock or a little before 9 from the electric company. Sorry that your power's out. We're working on getting it restored. And I got that message and I'm like, but my power isn't out, right? And my tinfoil hat self, I'm like, did you jump the gun? Are you turning off our power? And like, it's going to go out. So you accidentally sent out this message a little early because my power is clearly still on. Lo and behold, an hour and a half later, power goes out. I'm like, okay, Lord, what's getting ready to happen? Our senses are heightened. We know something's coming. There's been many threats and reports and dreams and visions of EMPs and power grids going down. And we know how the end is going to look. It's no surprise. So I go to get the kids from school and I'm running some errands before I get the kids from school, and I'm praying on this power outage because I didn't have power at the house. So I, went out and ran some errands in the car so I could charge my phone in the car and stuff like that while I didn't have electricity at the house. And I'm sitting at the light and I'm like, power's out. Are they going to like EMP us? Like, what's going on, Lord? Please show me something. Like, protect all my brothers and sisters from what's coming. You guys, I look over to my left and this is what I see. So later on that day, I'm going through another parking lot. I'm contemplating this Daniel and Daniel 12 stuff, contemplating, the tribulation. I was doing like a big study with Aaron. The tribulation is going to start when the covenant's signed. That's what's going to kick it off. But it seems like all this war stuff is going to start happening before. Then there's going to be a gap. And then that's what will bring on the covenant and the peace treaty with many and da-da-da. I look over to my left again, and this is what I see on another vehicle. So yeah, let's get into some passages, and God is just so good. I'm sure you guys already have an idea of what passages we're going to use here, but let's start out with the chamber and the snow dream, and just read a couple that are related to that. Let's go to Isaiah 26 together, and let's do starting in verse 20. Come, my people, enter your chambers and shut your doors behind you. Hide yourself as if it were for a little moment until the indignation is past. For behold, the Lord comes out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity. The earth will also disclose her blood and will no more cover her slain. Psalm 27:5. I'm going to start in 4. One thing I have desired of the Lord, that I will seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple. For in the time of trouble he shall hide me in his pavilion. In the secret place of his tabernacle he shall hide me. He shall set me high upon a rock. He's going to hide us, all right? It's so exciting. Okay, and then let's flip over to Psalm 32. And we'll read 1 through 7 in there. Really, it's 7. And it's really like speaking of storehouses. And this will make sense when we get to this passage in Job. But since we're in Psalm, I'll just read it here. Psalm 32, 1 through 7. Blessed is he whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered. Blessed is the man to whom the Lord does not impute iniquity, and in whose spirit there is no deceit. When I kept silent, my bones grew old, through my groaning all the day long. For day and night your hand was heavy upon me. My vitality was turned into the drought of summer. I acknowledge my sin to you, and my iniquity I have not hidden. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the iniquity of my sin. For this cause, everyone who is godly shall pray to you in a time when you may be found. Surely in a flood of great waters, they shall not come near him. You are my hiding place. You shall preserve me from trouble. You shall surround me with songs of deliverance. Now I would love to go to Job 38. And we're going to do 22 and 23 in Job 38. Again, still referencing this part of this dream about the chambers and the snow. God says to Job, 38 is all about basically God just like revealing his omnipotence to Job. Like, let me tell you about who I am here for a second, okay? Have you entered the treasury of snow? Or have you seen the treasury of hail, which I have reserved for the time of trouble, the trouble that he keeps us from, that he just told us in Isaiah and in the Psalms? We're hidden during that trouble. For the day of battle and war. These 2 verses in Job sum up almost all the dreams I've had that I'm sharing today. One more time. Have you entered the treasury of snow, or have you seen the treasury of hail, which I have reserved for the time of trouble, for the day of battle and war? Hail, hailstones and coals of fire, snow, time of trouble, the day of battle and war. Sounds like some seals to me. Does it you? And here, let's just do 24 as well. By what way is light diffused, or the east wind scattered over the earth? The east wind? We were talking about the east wind? The wind blowing east in that snowstorm? How cool is God, right? Let's go to Song of Psalms, Song of Solomon, and we'll just do the first 4 verses. 1, starting in 1. The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is better than wine. Because of the fragrance of your good ointments, your name is ointment poured forth. Therefore the virgins love you. Draw me away. We will run after you. The king has brought me into his chambers. And we were just reading this morning in the Discord, in the church service that we were doing this morning in Psalm 2, kiss the Son. So here we are, we see another, he's going to kiss us, and he has brought us into his chambers. The king has brought me into my chambers. That's what we were doing in the dream. Hidden from the indignation, hidden from the storm, hidden from when God releases the treasuries and the storehouses of hail and snow that he's reserved for the day of battle and war, missiles, China, or Bear Gate. I guess that's another dream I could share quickly, since this, it's just wild that this balloon thing with China has came up, because I had another dream, and I just was telling Aaron about it this morning. He just keeps bringing dreams that I forgot that I had. I was holding this red balloon, and I was floating. There was a wedding that was getting ready to take place, but it was a wedding where the groom was no good. And all these people were kind of in this reception area waiting to go to this wedding on a mountain. And I was floating this balloon. I was floating, through the air, and I was just telling people, don't go. You don't want to go to this wedding. This is not the wedding you want to go to. This isn't the right groom. You don't want to go to this wedding. Don't go, don't go, don't go. Well, all the people were just kind of like in a line. The imagery I got from the dream was like, broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many find it. They were all, this huge group of people were just on their way up to this other mountain. And I was holding this balloon telling them, don't go, don't go. And it was kind of floating me around. Nobody's listening to me. So the balloon brought me back and put me on a different mountain, opposite side of that. And we know in the Old Testament, don't quote me, I don't want to get it wrong, the book, is it Deuteronomy? I can't remember. But anyway, the two tribes are split on two different mountains. Mount Ebal and Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim, with Shechem in the middle, and they're split. So there's two different mountains. One mountain was for a blessing, and the other mountain was for a curse. And the blessing came before the curse to those on the mountain, and then the curse came second. The blessing always comes before the curse. Always comes before the curse. So it's just interesting, the two mountains, the balloon and then the red balloon, and then now here we are, a Chinese red balloon over the States. Anyway, it's just pretty crazy. Let's go to, I would like to read, let's see. There's a few passages in Nehemiah that are super cool, but, and again, I don't want this to be super long, so I'm just going to do this little dovetail study with you, and then I'll let you go. Thanks for hanging with me this long. Nehemiah, Ezra, Nehemiah. Forgive me. I need to go back to Sunday school when okay. Let's do Nehemiah. Let's go to chapter 12, which there's some really cool stuff in 10 as well. I suppose we can read it. Let's do 10. Let's do 10, 32 through 39. Also, we made ordinances for ourselves to exact from ourselves yearly 1/3 of shekel for the service of the house of our God. For the showbread, that's another study for a different time, but for the showbread, for the regular grain offering, for the regular burnt offering of the Sabbaths, the new moons and set feasts. New moons, that's another study too. I have these things highlighted so I remember to make a video on them. For the holy things, for the sin offerings, to make atonement for Israel and all the work of the house of our God. We cast lots among the priests, the Levites, and the people for bringing the wood offering. If you haven't checked out the last stream, the wood offering, all the trees, into the house of our God, according to our fathers' houses, at the appointed times year by year, to burn on the altar of the Lord our God, as it is written in the law. And we made ordinances to bring the first fruits of our ground and the first fruits of all fruit of all trees. We are the first fruits of the Spirit. 144,000 are the first fruits. Jesus was the first fruit. The first fruits. Bring the first fruits of our ground and the first fruits of all fruit, fruit of the Holy Spirit. Any tree that doesn't produce fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. We produce fruit, which brings me real quick, another quick dream I had. I just remembered I had a dream in like 2021 where all it was like a fuzzy TV screen, kind of like black and white, where you used to have to hit the tracking, like back in the 90s. It was real fuzzy. And it was just fruit in a basket flying through the air, and then a woman in a basket flying through the air. And then it would rewind. Fruit in a basket, woman in a basket. Zoop. Fruit in a basket, woman in a basket. Zoop. And it just repeated. That's all it was. In Amos, I believe Amos 8, it tells us about the basket of summer fruit, the first fruits, the fruit of the Spirit, because we walk in the Spirit and not in the flesh. A basket of fruit, the fruit went first, and then the woman in a basket. We know from Zechariah, I believe chapter 5, that's wickedness, to be judged. Judgment carried to the land of the Babylonians, which a lot of people, including myself, the more I study, is looking like the USA fits the bill to be the one that's the mystery of the end times Babylonians. But anyway, again, another study for another day, and it's not a salvation issue, but just very interesting. And here we have trees of our ground and the first fruits of all trees. Watch the last video of the dreams. Year by year to the house of the Lord, to bring the firstborn of our sons and our cattle, as it is written in the law, and the firstborn of our herds and our flocks, to the house of our God, to the priests who minister to the house of our God, to bring the first fruits of our dough, our offerings, the fruit from all kinds of trees, the new wine and oil, to the priest of the storerooms of the house of our God. Because what does he have in storerooms there? Oh, snow and hail, reserved for the day of battle and war. And to bring the tithes of our land to the Levites, for the Levites should receive the tithes in all of our farming communities. And the priest, the descendant of Aaron, shall be with the Levites when the Levites receive tithes, and the Levites shall bring up a tenth of the tithes to the house of our God, to the rooms of the storehouse. For the children of Israel and the children of Levi shall bring the offering of grain, the new wine, and the oil to the storerooms, where the articles of the sanctuary are, where the priests who minister at the gatekeepers and the singers are, and we will not neglect the house of our God. So then I just want to jump over to Nehemiah chapter 12, and let's just kind of, again, just rabbit holing and studying line upon line, precept upon precept, like he tells us to do, talking about gathering and gatekeepers and singing. And we'll just do a little quick study here. And at the same time, some were appointed over the rooms of the storehouse for the offerings of the first fruits and the tithes, to gather into them, or the first fruits of the Spirit gathered into them from the fields. Revelation 14, take your sickle and harvest, for the, harvest is ripe. To gather in to them from the fields of the cities of the portions specified by the law to the priests and the Levites. For Judah rejoiced over the priests and the Levites who ministered. Both the singers and the gatekeepers kept the charge of their God and the charge of the purification. On that day, we're going to be changed. Mortal is going to put on immortal and be so purified, according to the command of David and Solomon his son. For in the days of David and Asaph of old, there were chiefs of the singers and songs of praise and thanksgiving to God. The temple. In the days of Zerubbabel and in the days of Nehemiah, and all Israel gave the portions for the singers and the gatekeepers, a portion for each day. They also consecrated holy things for the Levites, and the Levites consecrated them for the children of Aaron. Okay, so singing and consecration. Let's just real quick. So we have, it all ties in: the trees, the first fruits, the singing, the gate. It's just so crazy. The snow, the hail, the storerooms, the storehouses, the trees, the trees, the trees. What is going on with these trees? Anyway, So as far as the singing, let's just flip to Revelation real quick. We know that there's a song that's being sung when we're entering his tabernacle. We talked about that again in the last video. I'm certainly not self-promoting, but all this really like ties in together. It's so cool. Let's do Revelation 5. And let's see. They're talking about the singers, right? In the temple in Nehemiah 12. When he had taken the scroll, the 4 living creatures, the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each having a harp and golden bowls full of incense, whence are the prayers of the saints. And they sang a new song, saying, you are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, for you were slain and have redeemed us to God by your blood out of every tribe and tongue and people and nation, and have made us kings and priests to our God, and we shall reign on the earth. Then I looked and heard the voice of many angels around the throne, the living creature and the elders, and the number of them was 10,000 times 10,000s and thousands of thousands, saying with a loud voice, worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessing. Psalm 100 tells us, it's a quick psalm, let's just read it. Speaking of singing when we enter the temple, when we enter the gates, his word is so rich, it gets overwhelming at times, doesn't it? Sorry, guys, I get a little worked up. I get really excited when I'm Bible studying and, hanging out with you guys. Make a joyful shout to the Lord, all you lands. Peoples, nation, tribes, tongues. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Singing. Know that the Lord, he is God. It is he who has made us and not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter into his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise. Be thankful to him and bless his name, for the Lord is good. His mercy is everlasting and his truth endures to all generations. So as all these first fruits are being brought into the temple, of which we are the pillars, wisdom has hewn out the 7 pillars. When the pillars fall, when Jesus takes us, the pillars, the 7 churches, the 7 spirits of God, when we're taken up to build his temple, just like when Solomon pushed them down, the pillars are taken out and everything comes crashing down. All this destruction, you can really start to see the picture. Speaking of what we were reading in Revelation, let's quickly, talking about we will be priests. Let's look at 1 Peter real quick. And let's look at 2:9. Y'all know what it says anyway. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people, that you may proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light, who were once not a people, but now are the people of God, who had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy. Let's look at Joshua 3:5. Speaking of, like when we were in Nehemiah 12. Speaking of being consecrated to him. Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel. Okay, let's do Joshua 3, verse 5. And Joshua said to the people, sanctify yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you. Then Joshua spoke to the priests, saying, take up the Ark of the Covenant and cross over before the people. Let's look at Joel 1:14. This one might be a little hairy to find. Aaron even got me markers, and I got so excited and didn't use them. What's wrong with me? Is Joel and then Amos? Yes. Joel 1:14 says, consecrate a fast, call a sacred assembly, gather the elders and all the inhabitants of the land into the house of the Lord your God, and cry out to the Lord. Alas, for the day of the Lord is at hand. It shall come as destruction from the Almighty? Is not the food cut off before our eyes? Joy and gladness from the house of our God. This is everything. This is us being gathered and entering and being hidden. This is the day of the Lord is at hand. This is, look, destruction. It's all the dreams. The food cut off, there's another seal. And it shall come as destruction. Joy and gladness from the house of our God. It's cut off. The voice of the bride and the bridegroom are no longer heard in thee, and the light of the candle shall no longer burn in thee. It's darkness. It's famine. It's destruction. It's war. It's hail. Like in Job. You guys, it all ties in. And then let's just look at this Exodus 19. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else I wanted to tell you guys. This has been way longer than I wanted it to be, but sometimes when you get going in the Word, it is what it is, right? Let's do Exodus 19. Let's do 3 through 11. And Moses went up to God, and the Lord called to him from the mountain, saying, Thus you shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings, and brought you to myself. Now therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be a special treasure to me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. 1 Peter 2:9, Revelation 5. These are the words which you shall speak to the children of Israel. So Moses came and called for the elders of the people and laid before them all these words which the Lord commanded him. Then all the people answered together and said, All that the Lord has spoken, we will do. So Moses brought back the words of the people to the Lord, and the Lord said to Moses, Behold, I come to you in the thick cloud. We're going to be caught up to the clouds. Jesus comes wearing a crown on the cloud in Revelation. Behold, I come to you in the thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with you, and believe in you forever, and believe you forever. So Moses told the words of the people to the Lord. He comes in the cloud because they're going to believe what we said. Some of them, Lord willing. Some, it's very sad, right? Then the Lord said to Moses, Go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes. We've been washed in the blood of Jesus. We have the right wedding garments on. We've been invited to the wedding. We have those priestly garments on, those robes, because we've been washed by the blood of the Lamb. And let them be ready for the third day. There's something about that third day, isn't there? For the third day, the Lord will come down upon Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. The third day is a study in and of itself. The clouds is a study in and of itself, but we're getting a little bit long here, and I apologize for it, but that was a lot of dreams. How many dreams did we share? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, one last one. Sorry. I can't believe I left this one out. So I was asking the Lord about the destruction. This was just a couple weeks ago, and it's so crazy how personal he is with us. I was asking the Lord about the destruction, and is it the United States, Lord? Is the United States really getting ready to get hit? Like, I'm going to ask you tonight to please show me something about New York. Is, it's like the epicenter. I know it's just like Sodom and Gomorrah, and I know that that's going to be just like in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah. What is it, Lord? Can you show me something to confirm that it's the United States and that this is coming? And I went to sleep that night, and in my dream, I FaceTimed my sister. And when she answered me, she wasn't looking at me with her phone. She had the screen facing outward to where I could see. And she was at a New York Knicks basketball game. And she was just showing me the New York Knicks stadium and all the people distracted and cheering, having no idea what was going on in the world, right? New York Knicks. It's so personal because my whole life I've played basketball, and I love the game of basketball. And if you know me at all, and basketball is a huge part of my life. So not only did he show me New York, specifically when I asked him, but he made it very personal. He knew I would know what the New York Knicks was. New York. and then basketball, because he's just that good of a God. And he showed me the multitudes that just aren't paying attention. So I'll be sure to stay making videos for as long as he leads me to. And I really appreciate everybody and your support. And please keep sending me your comments and all your studies with your dreams. And like, some people had camper studies, people had flood and trees, and we are coming up on the Feast of Trees, which with all the Bible study and I had done, didn't even know existed. So, but anyway, I love you guys, and I'm super appreciative of you, and just praise be to Jesus. He's coming so soon. Maranatha. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.